Hi everybody, this video is sponsored by a donation from Allison, and here's what she wants you to know. Hi Ollie, my name is Allison. I am so glad to have discovered your channel. I have been on the internet night and day looking for explanations for what is happening in my life currently and what sort of monster my brother is. It has been helpful listening to you, and I am hoping you can help me. I truly feel like I've been shocked into an alternate reality. Quick background to sort the narcs from the run-of-the-mill junkies, etc. I was born in 1957 into a chaotic environment of drug and alcohol use primarily by my father and mother. I don't think I was completely innocent, but she would never have admitted to that. I have come to see her as a covert narcissist. Apparently, I was born withdrawing from Demerol as so much it was used during my mother's labor. That's the story, at least. Who gives? I don't know if they actually gave Demerol back then. Demerol in the 50s was pretty popular for junkies to get their hands on. As my mother tells it, father was psychotically unpredictable and would essentially terrify us. Only my brother John is 2.5 years younger than myself. Dad, the small town medical doctor, would do things like throw us all in the car at night and stop at green lights and then go at the red lights. Mom said she would grab us both and jump out at the light to keep us from getting killed. Or he would chase mother around the house with a knife. There was sexual abuse and my brother had to be locked away in his room, in a room from him. I also get the feeling my mother drank a fair amount, and she may have participated in some of the Demerol use. I think so. Dad's a medical doctor, and there's a Demerol problem? It's not hard to connect the dots on that one. This was back in 1959 in a small town in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, Valley of the Dolls days. My earliest memories are of trying to keep my brother quiet as a baby and console him. We were abandoned a number of times, and once mother was put in a hospital to keep her safe from our father. I was only 3.5, but I do recall we having been left with strangers, and we did not know, and they put us out in the garage because my brother would not stop crying. I remember standing by his bassinet for what seemed like hours while he cried. My mother finally fled from father and went to Ann Arbor in the middle of the night to live with our grandmother. The next few years were difficult, but I remember them as happy and free for the most part. Although I was on my own and a wild child around town, I loved to be outside and doing anything active. Our stepfather came on the scene when I was 6 years old. My mother loves to tell the story of how I was so bad and yell at him across the street, "Go home. Don't have your own life." LOL. I guess I was jealous and frightened she would be taken away. I was chastised for it, though. That was the beginning of my new role from caretaker to scapegoat, I guess, and what a long hell it would become. I do recall that my stepfather won me over on occasion. He was the first person to truly sit down next to me and take time to teach me something. He taught me how to draw a room in perspective. I was truly hungry for attention, it seemed. As time went on, somehow my mother decided I would be the bad seed. She would complain to him how I had been so bad and hurt her feelings, or told her I didn't love her, etc. It got going full swing by the time I was 10. By this time they had married and we had moved to Northern Virginia. My mother was a strikingly beautiful woman. Over the years I finally came to understand her, and she let me in on a little of what happened before she died. She was so hurt by my father's rejection she had to go deep inside herself. She admitted to me not long before she died, when I was desperate for some closure, that she had to make herself happy somehow. She was referring to a false life she created. She once let it slip that she believed the man had to be rescuing a woman to stay with her, so that's where I was useful. Okay, so I was allowed to use summer blonde on my hair at 10. No kids did this in 1968. but it made her look more like a natural blonde. By the time I was 14, I pretty much had it and found a mother figure friend and started getting kind of wild and rebellious. Just a little at first, but I was definitely pulling away from them. Actually, my first martini was with my mother at a steakhouse when I was 14 years old. By 17, I was pretty much drinking 3 times a week and skipping school regularly to go hang out in Georgetown and DC. I forgot to mention I was a much liked kid in elementary school, a good athlete, voted school president in 6th grade, but at home I was the bad seed. It wasn't terrible abuse, but there was also visits to our father's house that added to the pressure. My brother spent lots of times in his room and had anxiety and was bullied. Somewhere along the line, though, he learned how desperate third graders at lunch would pay 3 times what a big buddy gum stick cost them. This became a lifelong template used to make him a millionaire many times over as an adult. Okay, maybe I will write more about my life as a young adult and how out of control I was some other time. But let's fast forward to my marriage to a man I respected very much and loved, even though I knew something was wrong. But he was so funny and I knew he could love deeply. But he didn't seem to be able to connect in some ways and was insecure, etc. He was a med student, and my mother, of course, thought he was not finished in some ways, as she put it. The night before we got married, she said, "I wonder who you would be marrying if you had gone the normal route in life." A not so subtle put down. By the time I had 4 years of sobriety, I had been in my share of hospitals and in a halfway house. But I pulled myself up by my bootstraps and was a medical photographer, making a very decent living, but it's still not good enough. Doesn't matter what you do, it'll never be good enough. The marriage was not good. He most likely has a form of autism that is barely there and Tourette's syndrome. He could not connect with family or talk with anything other than us. Generally about military history or how wimpy men are and can't take real shit in life, that they crumble at the first sign of blood, etc. But he was a great doctor, oddly enough, and saved many lives and was able to console relatives who lost people. He was loved by nurses and techs, cops and firemen. It was odd. He connected with everyone but us. And that's what narcissists do, though. They're everybody's best friend except for the people in their family and the people that are abusing them. And they're a stranger to us, but everybody else, all their flying monkeys and enablers, they all love them. I had a son in 1988 and a daughter in 1993. We spent most of the years in Dallas, Texas, where I felt like a fish out of water, surrounded by women who all seemed to have gone through the same charm school. I didn't fit in. I tried. Sadly, I drank again after 15 years of sobriety. And that was the last of any semblance of a normal life for all of us, really. Anyway, I still tried, still to keep everyone together, to be the strong one, to give my children the best I could, the best life I could. But drunks don't do that well, even though I hid it fairly well. Certainly not from them, but from others. Eventually others knew I tried to commit suicide. Oh God, bad day. I pulled away and became reclusive, yelled a lot, etc. All I could say is that today my children still love me. They are 28 and 22. I was not a good mother, but I never hurt them physically besides the odd item thrown here and there. If they still love me and forgive me and call me all the time and want to be near me, I couldn't have been evil to the core. I believe I was just sick, but kept trying to get up and over to help myself when I just needed to cry uncle and ask for help. But I was the only strong one. By this time, my stepfather had passed away, and my mother and brother had become united against me. He became the golden child. So over the last 15 years, my mother and brother were an item, so to speak, and I was the odd one out. I don't think my brother was really comfortable with this at first. He had issues and resentments almost deeper than mine against my mother that he shared regularly with her and anyone who might happen to be in the conversation. He was terribly upset that he was not breastfed by her. No kidding. This is a grown man. And he blamed it on her tendency to be a little heavy. Oh, there's something weird going on here, man. This is another one. This is another weird mother-son situation. He's talking about not being breastfed as a grown-ass man. He was very wealthy by this time, and he had a beach house without a guest room for my mother. My mother despised his mother-in-law and would constantly compare our two daughters who were close in age. Mine was prettier, but his was smarter. Oh my God, it was awful, really. There's always a competition to be had. Always. And don't get on yourself about the drinking. I mean, you're goddamn born almost addicted to Demerol. You got a history of alcoholism in your family. Based on what you went on in your childhood, you were self-medicating, dealing with something. I know you say you weren't a good mother. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe you're being too hard on yourself. And there must be issues that's bad things that happen. However, you could probably chalk a lot of that up to the alcohol. And though I would say alcoholism generally isn't an excuse, you did something about it and you feel bad about it. And it seems like now you're doing everything you can to make amends about it. That's the right thing to do. You were put on a path. You were put on that path by your family. This is not your fault. What happened with your kids and your ex-husband is not your fault or your brother. And obviously, there's some really sick shit, I think, going on between your mother and your brother. My brother and I noticed seemed to be mean to my daughter and would pick on her a bit and call it freak show. Not really funny. Just recently, she told me he put her in dangerous situations, one time in particular, when he took the children out for a hike. Apparently, he made my daughter walk too close to the edge of a cliff and chastised her when she was afraid. Over the years, we stopped going to visit him because their family seemed to behave as if we were not up to par. Both Katie and I agree we got a queasy feeling in our stomachs around them. He would ask me to scoop his dog poop and chauffeur him to the airport. The last time we were there, he ignored us most of the time. He's got some serious mental issues. And what it sounds like is he hates women. He hates women, and I don't think you need to look any further to him and your mother's relationship to know why. There's something really weird there. Then he separated from his first wife because a woman who sounds very much like that administrative assistant in your Narcissist cuckold story seduced him, and now they are together. She was actually my sister-in-law's good friend. I do not know her well, but from what I have observed, she's a master at manipulation and a gold digger. But my brother is greedy to the core, and she's not getting very far quickly. But they have been living together for 5 years. Well, sometimes a narcissist finds a narcissist and they lose. My mother became very ill last year, and I moved to her home from my home to care for her. I did not want her to die alone or in pain, and she knew I wanted to die, and I knew she wanted to die in her home. I had a surgery the month before to remove all femur parts due to cancer, so I was still recovering from that. Of course, my brother came maybe 1 week or so during the next 6 months and was so quick to say I was amazing at taking care of our mom, but he didn't have the first clue. During his first visit, his girlfriend ignored my mother. My brother yelled at my mother because he thought she was making a disparaging remark about his girlfriend being Mexican. Strange stuff went on. My mother still tried to go behind my back and tell my brother she thought I was spying on her, and what was he going to do about it? Crazy to the end, huh? I had to get up every morning and make her toast and coffee, just so, but of course it was never good enough. That led to my exploding in anger a couple times when she triangulated me with the brother and made sure she knew she had already given her best paintings to my brother. She is an artist. I felt used. She made it clear her caretaker also there was her daughter she never had. It was awful, but I stayed and made sure she got good care. Sadly, her last days were spent without her son around, just me, and she knew I knew what she had done and couldn't quite bring myself to love her. There were an odd few days, both of us pretending at her knowing her son didn't care enough to be there. And you know what? He got what he wanted, like every narcissist does. He came in, got the paintings he wanted, got you put down, and then he bailed before she died. You know what? To me, your mother got exactly what she deserved. Exactly what she deserved. He got over on her. He used her. He got her to triangulate and throw you under the bus, and then he bailed on you. And then she had to die looking you in the face, knowing what she had done, and him nowhere to be found. If that isn't the closest thing to poetic justice with a narcissist I ever heard, I don't know what is. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, and at this point, I don't know if you realized it at the time, but you should look back and look at it now. It's like, wow, I really got over on her. She really got her just desserts at the end. I just wish I could have really realized it when it was happening. Maybe you did, I don't know. After her death, her brother John arrived a day later. We went to lunch to discuss plans. Before my mother died, when she was well enough, the three of us discussed my desire to live in the house for the rest of my life if I paid the taxes and kept up the house and did the many repairs that were needed. Many, many repairs were needed as the house had gone to hell. Both John and my mother were delighted I would do this. John had homes in California and Costa Rica and certainly was not interested in cleaning out this home, and all was well and agreed upon and just great. I also explained to them that my husband was not well, and my plans was to go back to work so it would be helpful to only pay taxes while he was getting back on his feet, reducing his workload. Brother John was the executor of the trust. I knew this, but didn't see how this could harm me, as we were both beneficiaries of the trust. It's a will. Wait. Well, I was wrong about that. John did what he does best. Fronted gift money of $5,000 each to the grandkids. Then for the cremation and for the upfront expenses like a roof as water poured through it during a storm in May. He was, of course, not there for this, and he left immediately after her celebration of life, of course forgetting the trust document and asking me to send it next day air. So my brother knew I had to put my house up for sale the week my mother passed away. He said nothing. Somehow during the next few months I was left alone to manage one crisis after another while still paying for homeowners insurance and dealing alone with a massive flood from a storm. But when I would text John, he would say I was hounding him for money, or he would ignore me or accuse me of bothering him. As he's probably stealing all the money, because that's what narcissists do. It was ridiculous. I agreed to live in the house, but essentially I was being used to clean up a mess. He was also responsible as part owner of the home. It was not my home yet. It belonged to the trust. I had agreed to clean out the rooms, to lend a hand, but not pay for storm damages, etc. And I also ended up selling the car and doing all the work the executor was supposed to do. But but he was always conveniently out of the country. At one point, he accused me of taking checks because it was so odd no checks had come into our estate. The check I had deposited was a homeowner's insurance check for repairs to the house. Then he started acting like he was doing me such a favor allowing me to live there, but I didn't appreciate it. Finally, I told him if he didn't give me something in writing saying I could remain in the house and live here indefinitely with my husband, we would not redo the kitchen. My brother's response was, "Oh, so now you want a favor?" It was ridiculous. It sounds to me like he was trying to get you to fix the house and then sell it out from under you. In July, he suggested I get a renter from downstairs where his bedroom was. He texted over and over, "Get a renter to help with expenses. I will be paying I will be staying in friend's guest house when I come into town." So I proceeded to clean out the basement and pack his childhood trophies away. I replaced carpeting, painted, upgraded the bathroom, and then sent him an email asking if he would like me to send him anything. He exploded. He absolutely lost it. Said, "How dare you touch my things? I have taken comfort in my bedroom there for 40 years, and you were only too quick to destroy it. Oh my God, insane." Then he threatened me. "You're in trouble now." He was looking for anything to turn against you, so I think he could probably take the house away. That's what he was looking. Because he looks like a guy who's in trouble, that he's been maybe doing some shady stuff with the estate. And this is his defense mechanism, his nastiness, his accusations. I'm gonna get you. You're in trouble now. Okay, so he said my daughter and I were to be out of the house in 6 weeks. We were not to take one item with us, and the house was to be left stocked with linens, clean kitchen items, stocked, etc. He persisted with this for weeks, even after I hired a lawyer. He then tried to bull me out of the house by May 15th. He said he was bringing in his golf buddies and other groups of friends. Essentially, he was threatening my peace and privacy. It has been crazy. I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone. It was so shocking to have him turn on me this way, as if I was less than human. He was treating you like hired help and trying to fire you. He's either wanted to use it as a clubhouse for his friends, off your blood, sweat, and tears, or sell it out from under you. One or the other. But he was never going to let you stay in that house. He never had the intention to. Just like he was able to scam the paintings away from your mother and not show up when she died, he'll say anything to get what he wants. A narcissist will do and say anything to achieve their objective goal. And it seems like his objective goal here was to screw you out of everything he could. So if that means he was going to make some kind of handshake deal with you, not in writing, that you were going to be able to live in the house, just pay the taxes, okay, and you were fixing, and he needed to tell you that in order to get you to clean it up, fix it up, and then find some stupid issue, which is always with the narcissist, did some little issue that they just blow up on, and they think the blow up is what they're waiting for to put you down in that narcissistic rabbit hole so they can run roughshod all over you. It turns out he wants this house as a summer house from May to October. He is just determined to do what he wants no matter how it affects his niece and sister. It has been degrading and shocking. I told you. He was just using it. My lawyer had no luck reasoning with him after I had put $23,000 into this property and he was just going to take it. Apparently the trust was written completely for the benefit of the trustee. I had absolutely no say in what became of the property at all. So he decided he would buy me out, then changed his mind, and then decided to put it up for sale because the experience with me had ruined his attitude towards his childhood home. He was going to do one or the other anyway. This was all by design. This was all by design. He planned this out. I had nowhere to go. My home had been sold. I had a cat, a dog, and out in 6 weeks was insane. I lost my mind and could hardly function. Then came a letter from his lawyer demanding I pay rent until John was ready to sell. But the rent was ridiculously high and included all the personal property taxes and all the property insurance. This guy's got a set of nuts. This is why I say lawyers are the fucking scum of the world. Because the lawyer would know this guy is screwing you over, and he'll do it anyway to line his pockets. Fuck lawyers. But John forgot to tell her that he was moving in here in 2 days, so I was furious. I would pay rent while John lived here. These assholes were evil. I have been absolutely off my rocker furious ever since. This was about a week ago. Now they are backtracking and seemingly embarrassed. I am still furious. He's a bully and scared me to death. I am done with him, and I reported him to the FBI for having a fake U.S. government ID so he could scam hotels. I have just lost my shit and have gone after his ass in a way I had never had anyone else before. Help, Ollie. I have to get myself together here. I'm starting to look like a nut. It's like all this pent-up anger and abuse is coming out at once, and I'm losing it. I'm 60 damn years old, and I'm losing it on Facebook. But I know he will take me down and hurt me, so I'm scared. Oh, last and but not least, finally said I would move, but I'm not going to take one item from the house. How degrading. He is a lazy SOB, and he will not send me my mother's belongings from the house I would like to keep. This is a power-hungry move by him, and his lawyer is supporting it, saying he could take me to court if I so much as take a picture off the wall when I move. My mother hung me out to dry here. I know what she was doing, and I know she knew what she was doing when she wrote this trust, and it's completely designed so she can screw me. Okay, I'm going to have to keep my cool when I see him face to face. How do I do that? Thanks for reading this. I'm too tired to proofread it if you need some clarification. I'm 60 years old, and I feel like a scared kid. Allison. P.S. I forgot to mention I was just beginning to feel happiness for the first time in years here. Then 2 days later, my brother does his best to destroy it all because he wants this house on a whim. It's evil. Yeah, it's evil. And he's put you in a really bad situation. And this lawyer is absolutely disgusting. But the problem with wills is they can write them any way they want. Now, as far as what you do around your brother, this is what you do. This is your legal residence. He can't just up and make you leave. If he wants you to leave, say you have to fucking evict me. And if you try to make one move and keep your phone on you recording at all times, and you have it ready on speed dial for 911, if you take one fucking move on me, I'm going to call the cops and have you arrested for domestic violence. I'll put a fucking restraining order on you, and you won't be able to come within 500 yards of this fucking house. That's what you do. That's what you do. Now, as far as him using fake IDs and government IDs, yeah, I would report his ass, and you need to follow up and follow up with the FBI and say, you know, what is going on with this? Okay, I don't want him here. I don't want him here. That's your residence, not his. Technically, right now, you are a tenant. He can't just move in there. If you have receipts that you've paid anything in that house, he has no legal right to kick you out. He would have to go through an eviction process. And then until that time, he can't come in that house. He can't come near it. And if he tries, call the cops and have him arrested for domestic violence. If he tries to make a move, if he threatens you in any way, continue with the FBI thing. That's what you do. You're not completely without rights. If you have proof that you've paid money into that house that you are living in, you are now a tenant. And he can't just say you have to up and leave. They have to go through an eviction process. Find out in your state how an eviction process works. I'm not exactly sure what state you're in. Look up your eviction laws and find out how much time you have, and you might be able to plan an escape, because some places it takes 6 months to a year. And if he's trying to set it up as a landlord, that he's not living there, and he can't just move in there. He can't, because now he's turned himself, I believe, into a landlord. So he can't just show up and live in your residence that you've been paying in, technically, no matter what you've been paying for it. As long as you have receipts that that money went to him, he can't do a fucking thing. He's got no lease. He's got no contract. He's got no lease. He's got no tenant lease. He's got nothing. So he can't go in and say, he can go into court and say, well, now I want to charge a rent. And then you guys could go in to rent tenant landlord court and let them this, because now you have a tenant landlord situation. The landlord, your landlord can't just move in with you one day. I'm surprised your lawyer hasn't said anything. I don't know if you still have your lawyer, if you talk, but I would talk to a lawyer about him moving in. Say, I've been paying money. He can't just force me to leave. Force him to go through an eviction process, and even if he does, it's going to take time for him to do that. And in the meantime, he can't live there. He can't just move in there, because that's not his legal residence if he doesn't have mail going there. You have mail there, he can't just up and force you to leave and say you got 6 weeks to get out. Make him evict you. Make him evict you. And I wouldn't say anything until the 6 weeks is up. And then just at the end of the 6 weeks, I'm not going fucking anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. You go ahead and evict me and get out. And if he tries to force you out, you call the cops. And you show the cops, this is my legal address. There's no eviction. No, the only way somebody can force you out of a house if a judge signs an order to do it. Has a judge signed an order to do it, then he can't force you out of anything. Nor can he just move in there. But I would consult an attorney about that. And I would protect yourself from his violence. And I would have the cops on speed dial at the ready. Record every conversation you have to have with him. I don't know what state it is. Just make sure it's a one-party state that only one party has to know it's recording. Other than that, you're going to protect yourself. The reason he gets away with it is because nobody has stood up to him properly. He is a scam artist. And let me tell you something. When you say, well, let's get the cops involved, fuck your lawyer, go ahead. Because his lawyer can make a lot of threats and make some pretty legal threats and make it look scary to you. But his lawyer cannot force you out of the house without a written order from a judge. That's the same in all 50 states. They can't do it. So that would be my advice to you, Allison. And I understand how hectic this is, but I don't want to rub salt in the wound here, but this has got to be a lesson. But once you've identified narcissists in your family, they can't be helped. You can't do a good deed for them. Even when they're dying, on your mother's deathbed, she tried to fuck you over. And then she realized, oh, the guy didn't even show up, and she was forced to die with the person she fucked over, staring at her in the face. I don't even think your mother would think your brother would have gone to this level. She thought because your mother is so petty and weak-minded, she probably thought he'd just be happy with the paintings. But who knows? Your mistake was you didn't go no contact, and you didn't stay no contact. When this shit passes, and this will pass, and get out of the house at this point if he's not going to want to settle on something. Because once you start talking FBI and eviction court, and he's going to have to start explaining his actions, he's going to be more inclined to settle. And if you have that proof of him using a government ID to get discounts, he's in a lot of trouble. He's in a lot of trouble. So you might even not have to worry about him, because he might be spending some time in a federal penitentiary, which would be fitting. So, thank you so much for your contribution. and I understand with the situation you're in now that to contribute has to be tough. So I really appreciate it, and I really am humbled that you come into me because you're in the thick of something right now. So please talk to a lawyer who specializes in tenant landlord disputes, because I'm positive this falls under it. They can't just say, get out of my house and you got to leave. Not if it's your legal address, not if you have not if you have legal mail coming there. That is your address. A lawyer can't just send you a letter and say you have to leave your house. That's not how it works. He'll tell you that's how it works, but that's why you need to talk to a lawyer who deals with tenant-landlord situations, and you'll be able to buy yourself some time and be able to protect yourself. Do not talk to this guy without a witness and a recording, and be ready to call the police at the drop of a hat. That is the best you can do right now. And look for a way to move somewhere else and get these people out of your life forever. Because, I mean, at 60 years old, look at this. This will continue on and on and on for as long as you continue to have any association with these people. So consider it a lesson learned, Allison, and I'm sorry you're going through it. But thank you for your story. And thank you to everybody else who's watched. Please leave any advice you have or comments in the section below. And again, if you have a story or an issue that you need immediate help with and you want it read on the channel, you know what to do with the PayPal link in the description box. I'll have it right out to you. This is Ollie Matthews. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all again shortly. Bye.